my video today is about the fact that you do all this work to heal and you get to this beautiful place, and depending on what environment you step into next, it can unravel pretty quickly. And a lot of times I found that when I've done energy work with my clients, I've always had to tell them too, you need to keep up with this work. You need to keep up with your mentality. You need to keep up with your self-care. You need to integrate, because energy is fluid, right? It comes and it goes. And so if you're releasing negative energy and you're bringing in good energy, if you are releasing your past, you can still bring back your past. So you have to be very, very conscious and aware of this. And one of the reasons I'm saying this is because obviously anybody who is on my page, well, I'm going to post this on TikTok too, and I was thinking I was posting it only on Instagram. So anyone who's on my Instagram page, we're all looking for healing and advice on healing. And so when you're doing healing work, you want to think about, once you are in that good place, how do you stay in that good place? How do you maintain that? It's sort of like, when you go on a weight loss journey, you can't just start eating the way that you used to or stop exercising. You have to keep it up, and energy work is exactly the same. And going back to the story that I wanted to say about my retreat, it was fascinating because I was elated. I left the retreat. I luckily took, a little bit of time off I went off of social media. It's funny that now I'm posting all these videos and I'm going completely the other direction. I'm going hardcore on social media, but I'm creating content, not consuming as much content. And I'm very careful about what I'm consuming now. But, I was making sure not to shock my nervous system and to go back to my old habits and go back to my old thinking, my old energy, my old ways. And I just want to remind you to be incredibly conscious of that when you are doing any type of healing work for yourself, that you don't go back to your old ways, that you don't just jump into this environment. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is you do have to face the music again. You can't just heal yourself and go on this amazing retreat or go on vacation, even something really simple, and go on vacation and come back and be like, oh my gosh, I don't like my job. I don't want to go back to my job again. Or, I don't like my roommate, or I don't want to see my significant other right now. We're in a bad place and I went and I fixed myself and he or she or they are not, where I need them to be. You have to also remember that you need to focus on all the tools that you're learning. And again, it's your mindset, it's your conditioning, it's your programming that I'm going to always try to drill into your minds, because that is the number one thing I'm really trying to push right now is mental space, thought, conditioning, living in the future you want right now. And if you're going to do that, you need to be a different person when you're dealing with that job, when you're dealing with that person that you live with that you don't want to see, when you're going back and dealing with your mother or your father or your sister or your brother, someone that's stressing you out. You can't be your old self dealing with them again. You need to be incredibly mindful and work around living and acclimating to the environment that did not change, even though you did change. Now, the third part of this that I want to talk about, though, is really assessing if that is a healthy environment for you. Of course, if something's incredibly toxic, there's certain people we just can't leave, whether it's our parents or our, sisters, and, some might argue, well, you can leave, and it depends on the situation. Some people can't, it's not an easy thing to leave your loved ones. And I wanted to talk about how when you can't do that, that's a different story, and when you work on whatever that means for you. But at the end of the day, if something's making you really sick and you can't survive because of something else, and you're that new person, you're just in a toxic environment, that is when you do need to look at walking away. You don't need to stick yourself in an environment that's going to make you sick, make you live your worst life when you were just living your best life because you were away from it. If you really do need to be away from something and your healing has helped you realize that, that's a very different story. But for the most part, you are supposed to get to a place where no matter what happens around you, you can be still, you can be calm, you can be happy. And I always, when I think about this concept, I think of this picture that I've seen. I don't remember what it's from, but it's basically this monk just sitting on this really busy street, maybe in New York City or something like that. And they're just still, and they have this little smile on their face. And there's just chaos and cars and everything, clearly that you can see this picture going around, and he's still sitting in that stillness. And that is what we all need to embody. You don't necessarily need to change your environment to change your life. You need to change your mindset. You need to change your feelings. You need to change your energy towards that life. And that's where the difference comes in.